welcome to the first video in the Soul Spark series. I'm Dawn, and I'm here to share my spiritual awakening via a twin flame path with whoever's interested. This video will be about knowing you are one soul, which will hopefully help you better understand what that actually means. Because if you're like me, I had difficulty grasping what that truly meant. Little disclaimer first, I understand that everyone's journey is unique to themselves, so please just take whatever resonates with you. Also, I'm not doing a tarot reading, but I'm going to refer to the deck that I used when I was doing a reading for myself, where I was first enlightened with what I'm about to share with you. I didn't feel the connection any less, not having complete understanding, but just understanding how we are connected. And it's actually been a huge turning point in my journey because I hadn't read or heard anyone else explain it quite like this. And I was able to visualize it rather than hear someone say, you are one soul. But yeah, I understood it in my head, but somehow it just didn't satisfy me within. So I'll start with labels such as twin flames, divine feminine, divine masculine, DFDM, which you may have heard are not genders, but energetic roles. And while we all embody both divine feminine, divine masculine, one may be more prominent than the other or even out of balance, but it's yin and yang. And that's something I'd actually like to get deeper into in another video. So the twin flame label is something I'd like to touch on because I believe I've been led in this direction. Not that the label itself matters, but the thinking that more or less needs to be redirected, like away from duality, away from separation, and more into the direction we're being led, to align with our souls, which is getting into oneness and having that unity consciousness. Because that's what this journey is about, is aligning with our soul. And you may hear twin flames, some people call them split soul or the other half of your soul. But you aren't split, and you're not one half and they're the other half. You're one soul. Like, my thinking behind it is just trying to get away from, the twos, even though we are two separate physical bodies. But I think of it as like flames in a fire. And the fire is the base energy. It's that source energy, which is our soul. So, if you think of it like that, it kind of helps you better understand like what you're coming from. You're coming from it together. So it took some time for me to really truly understand this, and as hard as I tried, it just came to me through time when spirit or God or source, whatever you like, enlightened me. It started out that I tried to understand it with my mind, like my soul is his soul, my soul is my twin flame soul, and at our core we share the same soul purpose. Even though we may have different roles in that purpose. It still didn't really give me that kind of knowing that you have, like when it's a true part of your being. And I strongly felt the need to have it that way. So I just kept thinking about it. I thought, he is who I would be if I had been born in his body, in his circumstances, living in his world. But it still wasn't there for me. And even though I had heard and read, you are the same soul, one soul, it just still wasn't sinking in. So I've been doing tarot readings for over 20 years. In my 20s is when I started. And in recent years, I started using the cards for self-meditation. And I was actually doing a reading on this particular evening, and I had gotten the reverse Two of Wands, and it was in this deck, the Wild Unknown Tarot deck. I don't read the cards traditionally, not usually. And so, being in the reverse position, I read this as two physical bodies, the wands. You have your energies here, the chakra representing the chakra, like the colors of the chakra. And this is your more grounded energy, the more masculine energies in the lower part. And the upper part represents, the more spiritual and feminine side of the chakra. Also, this made me think of like mirroring, because obviously they mirror each other, even though they may have like different physical aspects to them. They still are mirroring each other in their energy. So one night I'm sitting outside, and late at night, I like to do meditation. It was dark and the sounds of nature were all about. And just a few seconds in, after I'd closed my eyes and I'd gotten to that still point in my mind, I had a vision, and it was of the card, the reverse Two of Wands card, which I had drawn a few nights before. I think it was like 3 nights prior to. Okay, so the card appeared. Everything else was blanked out, blacked out. And I could still see the colors and the wands, but there was this bright ball of light in the middle between the two. And the wands could be seen through the edges of the light. And right away, I knew that that ball of light represented our soul. I thought about it. Like I got up and went and got the card out and was recalling the reading and how I interpreted the card as these being the two physical bodies, the feminine, the masculine, and how they had been spiritually ascending. It just really, hit me hard. Like, wow, okay. So I can see how these two are separate, yet that soul is between them, is shared. Just being able to see that, it just did something for me. So I'm hoping that it will help others in this way. So a few nights later, I was lying in my bed, and I have this little warm glow nightlight in my room, and I was thinking about that Two of Wands, that reverse Two of Wands. And I put my hands up to the ceiling to make the shape of the wands to like match the way the wands were on the card. Okay, hold on. So I'll show you from this angle. It'll be a little easier. And so I was looking and imagining and questioning, because like I said, I felt like there was more to this. And I imagined the soul light there between my fingers as the divine masculine, divine feminine. And I asked, well, what happens as you're spiritually ascending? And I said, well, you're aligning with your soul. Then I asked, what happens to the physical bodies when they align with their soul? Then one by one, I aligned the divine feminine with the one soul, and then the divine masculine with the one soul, the shared soul. And I just had this aha moment, because it brought so much clarity to me of like what's actually happening, just to see it. And answered a question about like, okay, so when you hear people talk about magnetizing your twin back in, and when you focus on yourself, like you hear people talk about self-love, practicing self-love, and forget about them and they come back in. But I've never heard anybody really explain why. Like, oh, I mean, obviously, yeah, because you're aligned with your soul. But it made me think about union. And so, yeah, like this to me showed me why they come back, because you're both aligned with the one soul, with the shared soul. And just seeing it did something incredible for me, because it also gave me that understanding about, like, more understanding about union. Because as a twin flame, I think most of us want union. Through some of my readings and meditation, I've gotten that as a twin flame, you're meant to be in union. After you get to a certain point in your ascension, depending on divine plan, divine timing, because there are so many other ways to spiritually awaken. So I have to ask, like, well, what's the point of the twin flame journey then? And I mean, I hear other things. Well, like your twin may just trigger you and then they're gone. You may never see them again, because that was all they were meant to do. But I don't believe that. I feel like, and there's just so much more to it, which I want to get into in my next video. But what I've gotten through my spirit is that we are tasked with this. And not everybody has a twin flame, is my belief. I think that at a certain point, some souls are just tasked with this. And so we're here and we go through what we go through, and then we come out of it and we awaken. And, that's another point too. Like people talk about, the differences, the distance, race, age, all the different things that most twin flames have between them. That's there for a reason, right? Part of the purpose, not the purpose, but part of it is to come together to show that we can love unconditionally. And, usually this person is supposed to be someone that is just not usually someone you would pair up with. And this was true for me. What's the point of the twin flame journey if not to come into union? And I may be wrong about this. There may be more to it that comes to me later. But this I feel very strongly about. And I've actually gotten that is what is meant for a twin flame. And, you come into this union, and if you remain in that high vibrational state, if you remain aligned with your soul, I'm not to say that it would be that way constantly, but, for the most part, that you're able to maintain that, then you're able to do what you're set out to do as a twin flames, which is to share your light with the world, to bring to the world that higher vibrational state. I believe that we are on this path for a reason, and that is to, bring in that unity, that oneness, that higher vibration, just bringing the world into that and just sharing our light with each other. And so I believe that union is indeed a part of the twin flame journey, and it's just a matter of aligning with your soul. Like, you're still going to be spiritually ascending, and I don't think that will ever stop. And I think through that you will be led into a mission, not necessarily something that you are physically out doing in the world. It could just be daily sharing your vibration with others and pulling them into that and teaching people how to live that way. And I mean, there are all kinds of different things that you could do. It may not just be one thing. And, that's the beauty of it. This is an incredible journey. This, to me, like, I hear some people talk about suffering and the pain. And yes, there has been that. And it's been really hard. But it's also like when you really start getting into the spiritual, after you awaken and you start spiritually ascending, there are so many incredible, beautiful things that happen. So if you like this, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in seeing more, I have lots to share, and some of it are things that I have not seen elsewhere. So please subscribe if you would like to see more, and thank you for watching.